Is it worth upgrading to a grind by weight grinder? Today, we've got the Fiorenzato F83 Pro Sense on the bench, and we've also got the Anfim SP2, which you would have seen in many of our videos. We've been managing our dose by manually weighing into a dosing pot using scales, and we've just upgraded to a grind by weight grinder. Why have we done this? Was it worth it for us? Let me talk you through the workflow of both, and you can make the decision for yourself whether you're using the Anfim SP2, whether you haven't started weighing at all, or just a different grinder. Maybe you're choosing which grinder is most suitable for your next cafe, and you're deciding whether it's worth the investment, the time, and the effort to go to a grind by weight grinder. So let me talk you through what we've considered when making that change. So what we're going to do is talk through the workflow of each, and that will give you a better idea of how they operate and how they would work into your espresso bar. So straight away with the Anfim, we're just going to turn the UKF scales on. We're going to get that out, which I would be going to my portafilter to take that out. And I'd be using this time while it's actually grinding to get my portafilter clean. I've only got 20 grams and I know that my recipe is 22.5, so I'd be topping up, taking a second, getting the grams that I want before I transfer to my portafilter. That helps me break up clumps. There's some real valuable parts of that process just to get a nice even flow of water through the bed of coffee. So breaking up the clumps with the dosing pot's always been a real pro, but I do have to turn my scales on if they automatically turn off. I do have to activate my grind. It is a bit of a different technique for some people. I love this grinder. It has been a big part of the artistic process in getting consistency. So if you're a cafe manager, barista owner, consistency is a big part of the coffee making process. So if you're not weighing shots, you really need to go back and watch our other videos on recipes. This is more so for someone thinking about that next step and the investment. The difference between something like the grind by weight grinder, this is the Fiorenzato grinder. There's obviously the Mahlkonigs, the Mazzers. Anything's really going to give you a different workflow. So we're coming out of our machine, we're hooking in, it's tearing that off, and it's weighing straight into there. I would at this point be grabbing a second handle, getting that loaded, and notice that it gave me that extra bit of grind because it weighed the handle. I was short of 22.5. Little tap there, I'm on, and I'm done. If you times them back to back and the dose was right and nailed it on the Anfim, you wouldn't have too much of a difference. We've really tested this theory. I've always been pro dosing pots to get that movement, but I think the biggest win once you move to a grind by weight grinder is just taking away you having to manage any of that dose being right or wrong. If you're manually weighing your dose, you're either topping it up a little bit or taking it out. I've seen other people's videos of people doing this and try to get stuff. That's when we lose time. If we can maintain the consistency of quality of coffee, we're not letting coffee fall out. Now, I was hesitant to move to a grind by weight grinder, mostly because I don't love going straight into portafilters because of coffee falling out. That becomes an issue. We lose our dose on any of those kind of grinders. I've come around to the idea that I can save time on topping up and taking out. I also don't really have to change any settings. One thing about your manually weighing your dose, you'll have to go into the menu and you'll have to adjust how much coffee is grinding in a certain amount of time. As your burrs wear out, that time will change, and there is a certain level of training that comes with that. So one thing that I think is an advantage now that we're starting to upgrade our wholesale partners, moving them to a Fiorenzato F83 grind by weight grinder means that there's kind of less training for us to help our customers be able to understand changing their dose up and down as their grind changes or as their burrs wear out. So a grind by weight grinder does get that consistent dose no matter what level your burrs are at and also what grind setting you're on. So it's just two variables that used to work against each other a lot are now much simpler and much easier to work with. So from a training perspective, become a lot more simple. I think one of the downfalls of a grind by weight grinder is kind of back to that original sense where your time starts, you take a handle out, you're grinding and you're rotating, but you can't really do multiple things at once. One good thing about the dosing pots is that I can be grinding while cleaning a portafilter. Gets me doing two things at once, which was always the argument on speed. If someone came to me and they weren't using dosing pots and scales, they thought it was going to slow them down, but it actually could speed them up by grinding and cleaning at the same time. That's probably the compromise, but I think once we move away from topping up and taking out, we've kind of gained that speed back on every coffee. A huge change that's happened in the industry is that there's just been so much development in the technology and the price points really changed. It wasn't that long ago that grind by weight grinders came into the market and they were very exciting. They were just really expensive. And that's meant that only a few people could afford to have them, or it's hard to have all of our cafe partners using $5,000-6,000 grinders when we really want that consistency across accounts. We don't feel like you have to do a mountain of coffee to deserve the benefits of managing your dose. So we've opted for a system that was of a higher quality grinder, and we weren't just paying thousands of extra dollars for the grind by weight function. Now that we have something like the Fiorenzato F83 at a much more reasonable price, much more in the ballpark where grinders are well priced, but they give you that extra technology. It makes it much more approachable for a lot more people. If you want to see the pricing for the F83 or the 64 mil burrs, you can look on artisti.com.au. We ship these grinders all around Australia, and if you want to talk to me or talk to the team as to whether this is a suitable grinder for your cafe, just reach out to us. Send a message, shoot us an email or an inquiry online, and we can help you make a good choice for your cafe as to what's going to suit you. There is a range of different grind by weight grinders that will suit different people. We have found that some of them can be more technical than you need them to be, and if you just want to keep it simple for your team, maybe having a simple menu to guide you through is a lot easier for some people. Some of the other models that are out there, the E80s, Mahlkonigs, do require a lot more daily attention to make sure that those load cells are working really well. One of the big things about grind by weight grinders, and I've seen this across the board, is make sure you got a really strong bench top. Grind by weight grinders are basically, they're a scale. So you think about your chaos scales, they're moving, they're flickering. When you put your portafilter on, that tear time between going in and it starting is really important for your workflow and your speed. I know the Mahlkonig is very sensitive. That's how it does a good job, but it does require a very solid bench. You can't have a flexi stainless steel bench. The new Mahlkonig SG is a beautiful grinder, but it does require some solid bench top to make sure you're not getting that flickering and it can actually tear. I will say that it was a consideration. The Fiorenzato is not as sensitive to that bench top, and it was something that we haven't had the same issues with, that tear time being delayed with the moving bench top. So something to consider when choosing the right grinder for your cafe, but just a technical thing that you don't know until you've got it on the bench. Now, we have done videos where we've deep dived into the Anfim SP2, the Fiorenzato, and a range of other grinders. So go back, we'll put the links in so you can watch those and just help you make good choices for the equipment that's going into your cafe. So I think the takeaway for me is that grind by weight grinders are much more approachable these days. They're much more manageable. Parts are accessible. They're serviceable. Technicians are across them more, and they're much less daunting. So if you're not sure and you're wanting some advice, definitely reach out to us and we can give you that support. Let me know in the comments if I've missed anything. Have you got one of these grinders, or do you have a Mahlkonig or a Mazzer grinder? Which one do you think is better? Jump in there and let the community know what's worked for you. If you've had any issues, I know that troublesome grinders can shut down coffee for the morning, and that's not good for business, so we don't want that. Let us know in the comments if there's any bad stories about any of these grinders. We'd love to hear them. Be sure to subscribe to the channel. If you need some coffee to go into your grinders, head to artisti.com.au and we can ship that around Australia and to overseas as well. Check out all the other videos on our channel. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye.